Hello everyone, today we are taking a look at a 2S custom WalkSnail build that I made myself. I actually played this in a video, this video here. I kind of made a mistake when I made this video. I had planned to show an image of this and have some text, but I kind of just let everybody on like a bad partner or something like that. But at any rate, the reason why I'm making this video, because I didn't actually plan on making a video, is this is a less than ideal build. When I thought about making a 2S WalkSnail build, I had certain components in mind. The components are kind of tough to get a hold of, so what we're going to do is we'll go quickly over what I've got, because you've seen it fly and maybe you like it, but I tell you can make it a touch better. And then I'll make some suggestions, or I'll tell you what I had planned to do, because at the time I made this, I couldn't even buy here in the US the parts I wanted to use. So the frame goes under a few different names. Ishin Trashcan is kind of a really old name. I think they might even call this the Mobula 7 V3 frame. But basically the thing that's easiest to differentiate this from other frames is this big battery tray that we've got down here. This is a very robust frame. We've been using this frame for years. I don't think they've even changed the materials. It's just always been very robust. It comes in a little bit heavier than a typical 1S frame. That's why it's oftentimes just used in a 2S frame. I'll find this frame and link it down below for those that are interested that may not be familiar. As far as the motors, that was one of the areas that's less than ideal. These are 802 and they are 16,000 kV. In my particular case, I would probably... The KV is okay. It's just 0802 on heavier builds. I prefer 1102s. Of course, I've used a lot of 1102s on outdoor builds. My Rocket Race, my current favorite analog quad, has 1102s on it, 10,000 kV. But those are really hard to get. I think you kind of have to go scrounging through the internet to get those, and our shops here in the US definitely don't have them. But you can get the HGLRC Aeolus 1102 10,000 kV motors, but those, again, are really hard to find. At the time I was going to make this, I think I found one motor from Pyrodrone, but I was going to need four. They may be back in stock now, but yeah, so that's not going to work out. Obviously, this is WalkSnail. This is the 1S board. It's wired to 5-volt off of the flight controller, which is the X12 from HappyModel. Again, it's a board I had on hand. It's not a real light board, so that's one of the areas that I made a sacrifice of just making a 2S quad out of what I had on hand. The canopy is a Crux 3 canopy. I use that a lot. As a matter of fact, I bought a lot of those. Some people have used these and broken them. I think it depends upon the weight of your quad, the weight of the battery that you're flying, and how you're crashing. And then, of course, we have Gemfan 40mm tri-bladed props. And that's really the build. Now, if you're familiar with how I tend to fly these things, I use these little tiny Nanotech 300 milliamp 2S batteries. Really good battery. They have several others that look like this, and some that are bigger that look similarly, but these are the best batteries that that Hobby King sells, and the ones I like to use. The other ones do not fly or perform nearly as well. They come with a red JST, so you have to swap that out. That's the downside of this. Of course, if you have Beta FPV 450s or GNB 450s, they all fit in this tray just fine. But because of the way I like to fly, and getting, approximately a 245 flight is good for me, I go with these batteries because that's just how I enjoy things. The way I have it built, it comes in at just about 36.5 grams. For a little bit of perspective, this analog version comes in at just about 23.5 grams, so substantially lighter. This is the HappyModel 1S version of the Mobula 7, a WalkSnail version, and it comes in at 35 and just about a half grams. So 1S and just a touch lighter than my 2S one. Then we got the Meteor 75 from Beta FPV, comes in at almost 39.5 grams. Of course, that's the heaviest of the bunch. So I mentioned the motors that I wanted to use on this, and you might say, well, those are bigger, heavier motors. What about the 1002s? And if you've already left that comment, I kind of left a gap in there for you to do that. I have found the 1002 motors, while they're good motors, they have a very specific place within my quad building, my quad fleet, and that is to be an ultralight 2-inch quad that is running 2-inch bi-blades. I don't find there to be an efficiency advantage or a power advantage in whoops and 40mm props, whether you're running tri-blades or you're running bi-blades or you're running quad blades. I just don't think those are necessarily any more efficient, and the weight difference is so negligible than 1102s. I like the feel of 1102s, and you get much more efficiency and you get a lot more flight time. I've flown and built a number of 1102 Whoops on the channel over the years. And veterans who may disagree with me, go ahead and leave your thoughts down below. If you've flown the 1002 motors and you found that they perform better than 1102 in a 40mm prop format, I'm curious, but I'm a tough sell still. But the flight controller that I wanted to use was going to be the Flywoo Goku Versatile F405. That is a 1 and 2S. It's with a 12 amp all-in-one ESC in there, and it's got Express LRS built in, but it doesn't have an RX, and it's about $100. Not RX, it doesn't have a VTX, which works out perfectly in this sort of scenario. And you can probably see in my X12 board down there, I've got the cube antenna, and that was part of, when I built this, I had to kind of make sure I put that cube in the right spot to where I had at least some clearance. You can't really see it. I took a piece of paper and slid it under there. It didn't slide very neatly under there. So it's still going to be hit with impacts down on the canopy that then push this board and then goes down against that cube. My thought was, if it breaks, then I'll just solder on a little wire like they did on others. But ideally, if you use that Versatile F405, which I think right now you can only get from Flywoo and Get FPV, I don't think Race Day Quads or Pyro Drone or any of our other US-based shops are carrying that or has in stock that Versatile F405. So I'll link that down below if you want to get that. I think it's a really good board for HD builds, but it is one that you're going to have to solder your motor wires onto. There's no connectors on that board. So that's going to save you weight. The overall board weight is going to be less, as well as save you weight with connectors on both the motor side and the ESC side. And it doesn't have a cube antenna. It's got a UFL, which will decrease your height and make that concern that I've got between my cube antenna and my WalkSnail board just less of an issue overall. So that antenna would just come out back. I would probably route the antenna up through this hole through here and then connect it down to my board before I put my WalkSnail board. So my T antenna would be back kind of down out here. It should stay out of the props, I think, still, because the way this is constructed back here, it should stay down quite a bit still. So I think that would work out, but of course I don't have those components to show you, but I'm looking to acquire them, but I don't have them yet. Let's get into that flight. So I've actually got two flights I'm going to show you. This is not the flight that I featured in that short that I kind of messed up and was going to basically tell everyone that it was a custom 2S Whoop, but I didn't. So my apologies on there. I just kind of messed up the edit there and then didn't catch my edit on review before I posted that. So this flight is going to go on for just about 3 minutes. Pretty much most of the time when I use this particular battery on a quad about this weight, whether it's HD or not, I'm going to get about 3 minutes. Every once in a while, I'll find a magic nanotech battery that will give me dramatically more flight time. Like 30 seconds is one of those measurable differences when it comes to flight time that you're kind of like, whoa, yeah, I can get some extra flight time out of this particular battery. Found the golden battery. I've got my WeBleed FPV Cube Gate out, as well as those lightsaber lights. I know that they're not really lightsabers, but that's what it reminds me of. Still got one configured in blue and one in orange. I've actually recently switched that, so in an upcoming video, you're going to see, well, it's an analog video, so you don't see it as well. But at any rate, I really like those. If you want those, they're like 50 bucks a piece at WeBleed FPV, and you can check them out down there. I just think they're great. I did actually finally have to recharge those. I don't know how long I had been running them, but finally they stopped running, so I needed to recharge them. I could have just plugged in like a USB battery bank and keep running them, but I just brought them back over to the desk and just plugged them into a USB charger and let them charge again. So I wanted to show you a different flight than I had in that short. Of course, the short might have given some of you all the information you need to know about this particular build. It flies well. It's just one of those things with the efficiency and the power. It's just not quite there. I didn't fly this one outside at all. This was built and tuned and flown during a period of time where our weather was just horrible. It was low to mid-30s at best, and most days the wind was just howling, which made it feel even worse than it was out there. So no outside flight on that, which I don't think is terribly important because this isn't really a review. This is more about, I built something, but I don't think you should build it this way. I think you should build it this other way, using that Goku Versatile F405 as well as some 1102 motors, probably the HGLRC Aeolus motors, because the HappyModel motors are difficult to get. The HappyModel motors are very efficient. I don't think the HGLRC Aeolus 1102s are as efficient as the HappyModel 1102s, but they're available, and I haven't been able to find the HappyModel 1102s available to buy. I still have some, but I'm kind of saving those for my favorite rocket race. 1002s are an option, but your flight times are just going to be shorter. I had I think it was the Mobula 7 WalkSnail video where they had 1002 motors on there and bi-blades, and I switched to tri-blades on those motors, and I got longer flight times. So the less blades actually reverse that pattern of getting us more efficient flight. Okay, our flight has ended right around 3 minutes, a little bit under. I think it one was 2:47 or something like that on that flight. I want to show you this other flight comparison. So I've labeled everything, and I started this with all three on armed. So we've got everything's labeled, obviously. I said that once already. So we've got the Meteor 75 WalkSnail in the top left, the Mobula 7 WalkSnail in the top right, and down in the lowly bottom position is the custom 2S build that I just showed you. And then initially we had the flight times printed on there, but it'll be pretty apparent when we look at the flight times, the difference. Remember the Meteor 75, I'm not flying nearly as aggressively. It's, what was it, 5 grams heavier, 8 grams, I think, than the Mobula 7, but 5 grams heavier than my build. So I'm not flying it nearly as fast, but surprisingly enough, we still got about 3 minutes of flight out of that versus the Mobula. We didn't, and my 2S build, I think we get about 243 or 247, somewhere in there. So when it comes to the different motors and stuff, you can kind of see the different efficiencies. And that stuff is important to many of us when we're trying to make our build. Some people really go extreme on the flight time and try to get every ounce of flight time that you can. And others are more about like myself, I'm a little bit more on the performance and the feel of the quad, whereas flight time is secondary. If it's terrible short, then that's no good. Say less than 2 minutes and 10 seconds. That's too short. I want to be able to get 215 to 230 flying the way I fly without having to use a big heavy battery. And I think my flight preference actually causes a little bit of a problem because I'm not necessarily a unicorn. It's just that so many different flight preferences exist. Some people really want to cruise, and they want to cruise for a very long time. Other people want even more power because they're planning to fly outside, or that's their typical flight space. And then others are a combination of efficiency, power, as well as control. So we kind of have to pick and choose. That's the thing about our quads. It's why we keep looking for different parts and different builds and different weights, right? New batteries, new battery tech. We haven't seen battery tech coming along and really change the game in any measurable way here in the last few years. And I do believe that Hobby King has these batteries back in stock if you want to give them a shot. Just remember, they come with the red JSTs. You got to clip that off, and you got to put XT30s on it. You see the Mobula 7 WalkSnail has already stopped. The Meteor 75 WalkSnail is still going, but it will stop here shortly. And my custom 2S build is still going strong down there in the bottom center. And are all these, all these flights were during the day too. I was kind of wondering about that because I haven't actually looked at this comparison all that closely after I put it together. All daytime flights. That doesn't always happen when it comes to me and my flight time. Sometimes I have soft targets in the area, or somebody's watching TV and I don't want to, end that in the audio. Okay, we're finally ending there. So yeah, WalkSnail, my build went the longest. The Meteor 75 was next, but much slower, and then the Mobula 7 was even slower yet. So hopefully that 3-window different flights was somewhat useful. I thought it could be, so I put that together, put the text on there to label everything up to kind of help everyone out there who might be interested in the WalkSnail ecosystem. Again, one of the questions I've gotten a lot about building a WalkSnail Whoop is, it's made for 1S. Well, it'll accept 3.1 to 5 volts. And so put it on 5 volts, a 5-volt pad off of the ESC, or excuse me, all the all-in-one flight controller, and it should be fine. If the 5-volt regulator dies, which can happen in these things, and some all-in-ones over the years have been really bad about that, but maybe that problem's a little bit less of an issue now, but we'll find out shortly. It shouldn't hurt your WalkSnail video transmitter. It should just affect your 5-volt pad on your all-in-one, so you may then have to add a 5-volt regulator after the fact if that flight controller still works. I don't go directly to the battery pad, or VCC in short. So a little jump cut there. My little light battery ran out. But as I was saying, I wouldn't build it again the same way. I built it with parts that I had on hand because I couldn't buy the parts that I wanted. And I was thinking about, if I made a video on this, what parts would I use? And now we know. 1102, 10,000 kV motors. HGLRC Aeolus motors. I'll link them down below just to make it easy for you. I don't know if those are in stock, so you may have to go directly to HGLRC, but I'll look around, see if I can't find some sites with those in stock, as well as the Goku Versatile F405, the Flywoo flight controller that's kind of diamond-shaped. For those that aren't comfortable soldering on those little tiny pads, again, great tip I got from many of you was to get one of these magnifying headlamps. Like $14 off of Amazon. I made a short on that because this has really changed my life. Louis Hurtado, he told me about how these, can just start to cut your nose because this rubber's really thin. And if you run into that situation, because I do find these a little bit pokey, but I don't wear them for hours on end. I kind of just wear them and do what little bit of soldering I do, and then I take them off. He said put some heat shrink tubing over the top of these, and that will help shore up the nose pieces and keep them from cutting up our noses. But yeah, I should have had this long ago. I should have just bite the bullet, but I spent a lot of time squinting and holding things close to my face in order to get by with the soldering that we do need on our little micros. So I made a short on this. If you're interested in this, it's Amazon headset magnifier. We'll probably search to whatever these are. They come in a couple different sets. Like this kit that I have, not only does it have all the different lenses you can put on, but it also has a strap, so you don't have to wear this earpieces. It has a strap that goes around. Some people talked about how this wasn't very comfortable on this head. Again, I don't wear it for hours on end, but the strap might be a better option. But for $14, I really can't complain about any of my discomfort or it's squeezing behind my ears or something. I don't notice that, but yeah, it's an inexpensive purchase in this hobby. One last thing I should talk about that isn't specific to this video, but I have spent some time, and you'll find this probably in an upcoming video. I have spent some time flying 450 BT20s from We Bleed FPV, and I just gave away those $50 coupons to We Bleed FPV. These are really good batteries. They're small and they're loose in our typical 1S 75mm whoops, which these would make a good pair. So they kind of slide around in there, but they perform really well. The Dogcom, I also spent some time flying the Dogcom batteries in a smaller 65mm build. You can't hardly see them, but I'll hold it up to the camera anyways. Come on, camera, focus. I'm not a fan. I found it specifically the 300s were really poor performing. I mean, they're kind of just bench batteries, in my opinion, at least on the setup that I was flying. Because then I went out and I tried my We Bleed FPV 300s, and I was getting 2.5 minutes flight time versus I could barely get a minute on these Dogcoms. So if you're looking for some good micro batteries, go to We Bleed FPV, pick these up. These are essentially the same as the Newbie Drone Nitro Nectar Golds. They come with BT20. I think these also got the PH20 if you want to go that route. They don't have any of these in the GNB connector at all. But so if you've got BT20 or PH20 and you're wanting to fly 65mm with a 300 milliamp battery in it, check them out. And definitely if you're doing 1S on 75mm, 40mm props, BT20, I don't think they have PH20 in this kind. But it's very likely these are sold out because it was kind of an initial run, and I think that's pretty expensive. So we'll have to wait for the next big run to come through. So keep going to their website and keep checking for batteries. Hopefully they get a shipment that can, arrive quickly. I know shipping can be expensive. The best thing you can do is to message them and say, hey, I love your products. I hear them talked highly about all over the internet, but I live in this country and it costs way too much to ship. Is there any other alternate shipping that you can set up on your shop in order to help me get some of your good products? I don't know. That's just off the top of my head. Use your own words to try to sway shops to find international shipping methods so that you guys can enjoy the same stuff we do here in the U.S. Okay, probably went on way longer than I needed to. I see I've recorded for 24 minutes. try to edit this down into something manageable, but I thought after all the questions and all the views of that short that I needed to kind of cover this, especially since I kind of messed up the short video. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, or otherwise, I want to hear about your thoughts on those 1002 motors. Leave those down in the comment section below. I appreciate your time. Check out Infinity Loops. Infinity Loops YouTube channel. I appreciate your time. Thanks for watching. What is the charge, sir? Eating a meal? A succulent Chinese meal? Ah, yes, you, sir, know your judo very well. Ta-ta and farewell.